Ishmael's life occupies a unique and pivotal role in the biblical narrative, where faith, tension, and grace intersect. His story is a remarkable testament to God's unwavering faithfulness, even amidst human imperfection. Though Ishmael was not the child through whom God's covenant was fulfilled, his life was deeply intertwined with divine promises, demonstrating that God's blessings often extend beyond human expectations. As the firstborn son of Abraham, Ishmael's journey offers profound lessons about trust, resilience, and divine mercy. His story challenges us to look past surface-level distinctions and recognize the inclusivity and vastness of God's grace, especially for those who may feel overlooked or excluded. Born into a world fraught with cultural and familial complexities, Ishmael's life was shaped by both promise and struggle. His story begins in the heart of God's covenant with Abraham, unfolds through human attempts to grasp that covenant, and reveals divine mercy even in challenging circumstances. Ishmael's life encourages readers to see the beauty in God's intricate plans and reminds us of the boundless nature of His blessings, which transcend human boundaries and limitations. The foundation of Ishmael's story lies in one of the most extraordinary promises in Scripture, God's covenant with Abraham, detailed in Genesis 15. At the time, Abraham and his wife Sarah were advanced in years and childless, their hope for an heir diminishing with each passing day. Yet God declared to Abraham that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. This was not merely a reassuring word of encouragement. It was a divine covenant, a binding promise sealed by God's unchanging character. Abraham believed in God's promise, and his faith was credited to him as righteousness. Yet, as years passed without the birth of a child, the couple's faith was tested. How could they reconcile the apparent impossibility of their situation with the grandeur of God's declaration? Abraham was nearly 75 years old, and Sarah was not far behind. In their cultural context, childlessness was more than a private sorrow. It was a public mark of shame and loss. Without descendants, Abraham's legacy, his inheritance, name, and place in the world, seemed doomed to vanish. Despite these challenges, God's promise remained steadfast. It was not limited by human circumstances or constrained by natural law. The stars Abraham saw in the night sky served as a symbol of God's boundless ability to fulfill His word. However, the waiting period tested the limits of human patience and understanding. This tension between divine assurance and human doubt became the backdrop for Ishmael's story. As the years dragged on without the promised child, Sarah's growing despair led her to take matters into her own hands. She proposed a culturally acceptable but spiritually flawed solution. Abraham should take her maidservant, Hagar, as a surrogate. This practice, common in the ancient Near East, allowed a barren wife to claim the offspring of her servant as her own. Abraham agreed, and Hagar soon conceived. Initially, this arrangement appeared to be a solution to their predicament. However, human attempts to control divine plans often bring unintended consequences. Hagar's pregnancy shifted the dynamics of the household. Realizing she was carrying Abraham's child, Hagar's attitude towards Sarah changed. Tension and resentment grew, and Sarah, feeling humiliated and powerless, responded with hostility. The situation escalated to the point that Hagar fled into the wilderness, seeking refuge from the conflict. It was in this place of isolation and despair that Hagar encountered the angel of the Lord. In a moment of divine compassion, the angel spoke directly to her, offering comfort and guidance. This marks a significant moment in Scripture, as it is the first recorded instance of an angel addressing a woman directly. The angel instructed Hagar to return to Abraham and Sarah, assuring her that she would bear a son. This child was to be named Ishmael, meaning God has heard, a name that encapsulated both Hagar's cries of anguish and God's attentiveness to her plight. Hagar's return to Abraham's household and Ishmael's eventual birth signified the unfolding of God's plan, even amid human imperfection. Ishmael's name stood as a powerful reminder of divine compassion and the inclusivity of God's care for those on the margins of the story. For the first 13 years of Ishmael's life, he was Abraham's only son and the apparent heir to God's promise. He was deeply loved and cherished, and his presence brought hope to Abraham's household. Many believed that Ishmael might be the fulfillment of God's covenant. However, in Genesis 17, God clarified his plan, declaring that Sarah herself would bear a son. This child, Isaac, would be the one through whom the covenantal blessings would flow. Abraham's response to this revelation was one of astonishment and a plea for Ishmael. "Oh, that Ishmael might live before you," he exclaimed, expressing his deep affection for his firstborn and his hope that Ishmael might carry the covenantal blessing. God's reply was both reassuring and definitive. While the covenant would pass through Isaac, Ishmael would not be forgotten. God promised to bless Ishmael abundantly, making him the father of 12 princes and a great nation. This moment revealed the breadth of God's faithfulness. Ishmael's life was not diminished by his exclusion from the covenant. Rather, it was enriched by God's promise to bless him in his own right. This duality highlights the complexity of God's plans and his ability to work through multiple narratives simultaneously. The birth of Isaac brought both joy and tension to Abraham's household. Ishmael, who had once been the sole focus of his father's attention, now faced displacement. During a feast celebrating Isaac's weaning, Sarah observed Ishmael's behavior and interpreted it as a threat to Isaac's future. Whether Ishmael was mocking or simply playing, Sarah's perception led her to demand that Abraham send Hagar and Ishmael away. This demand deeply grieved Abraham. Ishmael was his son, and the thought of casting him out seemed cruel and unjust. However, God reassured Abraham, instructing him to listen to Sarah and promising that Ishmael would not be forgotten. With a heavy heart, Abraham provided Hagar and Ishmael with bread and water and sent them into the wilderness. The wilderness journey was a test of survival. When their provisions ran out, Hagar, overcome with despair, placed Ishmael under a shrub and wept at a distance, unable to bear the thought of his death. In this moment of utter vulnerability, God heard Ishmael's cries and intervened. The angel of the Lord appeared to Hagar, revealing a nearby well and reaffirming God's promise that Ishmael would become a great nation. This act of divine intervention ensured their survival and highlighted God's attentiveness to the cries of the marginalized. Ishmael grew up in the wilderness of Paran, where he adapted to the harsh environment and became a skilled archer. His life in the desert reflected resilience, independence, and strength. Hagar arranged for him to marry an Egyptian woman, further connecting him to his maternal heritage. Over time, Ishmael's descendants grew into a significant and influential people, fulfilling God's promise. In Genesis 25, Ishmael's legacy is cemented as the father of 12 sons, whose names are listed in Scripture: Nebaioth, Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedema. These sons became tribal leaders, establishing Ishmael's descendants as a prominent presence in the region. Their territory stretched from Havilah to Shur, near the border of Egypt, symbolizing the vastness of Ishmael's influence. Historically, many of these tribes played significant roles in trade, wealth, and regional culture. Their prominence fulfilled God's promise to make Ishmael a great nation and highlighted the enduring legacy of his lineage. Ishmael's story transcends his life, offering profound theological insights. In Galatians 4, the Apostle Paul contrasts Ishmael and Isaac as representations of two covenants: the old covenant of human effort and the new covenant of divine grace. This allegory underscores the transformative power of trusting in God's promises rather than relying on human schemes. In Islamic tradition, Ishmael is revered as a prophet and the ancestor of the Prophet Muhammad. His life emphasizes submission to God, faithfulness, and divine providence. The Hajj pilgrimage commemorates key moments in Hagar and Ishmael's life, such as the search for water and the provision of the Zamzam well. Ishmael's story bridges the Abrahamic faiths, serving as a reminder of shared heritage and divine mercy. Ishmael's theological significance challenges readers to reflect on the inclusivity of God's blessings. His life demonstrates that God's mercy extends beyond covenantal boundaries, reaching all who call upon him. Ishmael's name, God has heard, encapsulates this truth and reminds us of God's attentiveness to human struggles. Ishmael's life offers profound lessons about God's sovereignty, grace, and attentiveness. His story demonstrates that even when human actions deviate from divine plans, God's blessings remain steadfast. Ishmael's existence was not a mistake, but an integral part of God's larger design. His name, God has heard, serves as a powerful reminder of divine compassion and attentiveness to human struggles. One of the central themes of Ishmael's life is resilience. Despite being born into a situation fraught with tension and eventual displacement, Ishmael's life exemplifies the strength to thrive under challenging circumstances. Growing up in the wilderness, he developed skills and adaptability that not only ensured his survival, but also allowed him to prosper. His ability to overcome hardship reflects the enduring nature of God's provision. Ishmael's story also highlights the inclusivity of God's blessings. Though he was not the child of the covenant, God's promises to him were significant and far-reaching. The establishment of 12 tribes through Ishmael demonstrates that God's mercy and faithfulness extend beyond the boundaries of human expectations. His story challenges us to expand our understanding of who is included in God's plans and to trust that his purposes often transcend what we can see or comprehend. For modern readers, Ishmael's story serves as a source of encouragement and hope. It speaks to those who feel marginalized or excluded, reminding them that God sees, hears, and cares deeply for their struggles. His life is a testament to the truth that God's plans are not limited by human flaws or circumstances, and that his blessings are abundant and inclusive. Ishmael's journey invites us to trust in God's timing, embrace resilience in the face of challenges, and rest in the assurance that his promises are unfailing. Despite the divisions and tensions that marked their early lives, Ishmael and Isaac came together to bury their father, Abraham. This act of unity, recorded in Genesis 25, is a powerful moment of reconciliation and mutual respect. It highlights the shared heritage of the two brothers and the enduring bond of family that transcends personal and historical conflict. The burial of Abraham is more than an act of familial duty. It is a symbol of potential healing and harmony. Ishmael and Isaac, representing two distinct branches of Abraham's lineage, set aside their differences to honor their father. This moment serves as a reminder that unity is possible even in the face of deep divisions. It offers hope for reconciliation, not only between individuals, but also among communities and nations that trace their spiritual heritage to Abraham. For modern readers, this act of unity carries profound significance. It challenges us to seek reconciliation in our own relationships and to embrace the shared humanity that connects us. Ishmael and Isaac's story encourages us to move beyond historical grievances and focus on building bridges of understanding and respect. Their moment of unity inspires a vision of peace that transcends cultural, religious, and societal divides. The reconciliation of Ishmael and Isaac also serves as a foreshadowing of the broader unity that is possible under God's sovereignty. It invites us to recognize that, despite our differences, we are all part of God's creation and His redemptive plan. By following their example, we can work toward healing divisions and fostering relationships rooted in mutual respect and shared purpose. Ishmael's story encourages faith, resilience, and hope. It challenges us to expand our understanding of God's mercy, embrace reconciliation, and trust in His timing. Ishmael's journey inspires us to overcome life's challenges and find assurance in God's promises.